Michael Hayes sat in the corner booth of Jerry's Diner, the same spot he claimed every Saturday morning for the past 3 years. The vinyl seat had molded to his shape, and the waitress knew his order by heart. Black coffee, 2 eggs, wheat toast. His daughter Emma was spending the weekend with his ex-wife, and these quiet mornings had become sacred to him, a moment to breathe before another week of juggling his job at the hardware store with single parenthood. The rain hammered against the windows, turning the parking lot into a sheet of gray water. Michael stirred his coffee and watched the drops race down the glass. That's when he saw her. A woman stood just outside the diner entrance, drenched to the bone. Her clothes hung heavy with rain, and she clutched a worn canvas bag against her chest. She couldn't have been more than 30, but her eyes carried the weight of someone much older. She stepped inside, water pooling at her feet. The other customers glanced up, then quickly looked away. Michael watched as she approached the counter, her lips moving in quiet conversation with the waitress. He couldn't hear the words, but he saw the waitress shake her head. The young woman's shoulders sagged. Michael's breakfast arrived, steam rising from the eggs. He picked up his fork, but his eyes stayed on the woman. She was walking toward the door now, her head down. Something in his chest tightened. "Excuse me," Michael called out, his voice cutting through the diner's murmur. "Miss?" She turned slowly, her green eyes wary. "Would you like to join me?" He gestured to the empty seat across from him. "Looks like you could use something warm." She hesitated, distrust and desperation warring on her face. Finally, she nodded and walked over, leaving a trail of water behind her. "I'm Michael," he said, sliding his untouched plate across the table. "Please, eat." "I can't take your food," she whispered, but her eyes betrayed her hunger. "Sure you can. I'll order another." He raised his hand to signal the waitress. "Besides, my mama would haunt me if I let someone go hungry." The ghost of a smile crossed her face. "I'm Claire." Michael ordered another breakfast while Claire ate slowly, carefully, as if each bite might be her last. He didn't ask questions, didn't pry. He just sat there, sipping his coffee, giving her the dignity of silence. When she finished, she looked up at him with tears in her eyes. "Thank you. You have no idea what this means." "We all need help sometimes," Michael said simply. "No shame in that." Claire reached into her bag and pulled out a business card, bent and water-stained. "If you ever need anything at all, please call this number and mention my name." Michael took the card, though he couldn't read the smudged text. "Take care of yourself, Claire." She nodded and left, disappearing into the rain like a ghost. Michael tucked the card into his wallet and forgot about it. The weeks that followed were hard ones. Emma caught the flu, and Michael burned through his sick days, staying home with her. Then the hardware store cut everyone's hours. The bills piled up faster than he could pay them. The car started making an expensive sound. The landlord mentioned raising the rent. Michael lay awake at night, calculating and recalculating, trying to make the numbers work. They never did. One morning, a certified letter arrived. Michael's hands shook as he opened it, expecting an eviction notice or worse. Instead, he found a letter from a law firm he'd never heard of. "Dear Mr. Hayes," it read, "we represent the estate of Margaret Whitmore. We have been instructed to contact you regarding a matter of inheritance. Please call our office at your earliest convenience." Michael read it 3 times. He didn't know any Margaret Whitmore. The lawyer's office was downtown, in a building with marble floors and walls lined with law books. Michael felt out of place in his work jeans and flannel shirt. A woman in her 60s greeted him, her silver hair pulled back in a neat bun. "Mr. Hayes? I'm Dorothy Chun, senior partner. Thank you for coming." She led him to a conference room where another lawyer sat waiting. "This is my colleague, Robert Sullivan. Please sit down." Michael sat, his heart pounding. "Mr. Hayes," Dorothy began, "3 weeks ago, Margaret Whitmore passed away. She was a remarkable woman who built a considerable fortune through real estate investments. She never married and had no children." Michael shook his head. "I'm sorry, but I didn't know her." "Actually, you did," Robert said gently. "Though you knew her as Claire, The memory flooded back. The diner, the rain, the young woman with the old eyes. Margaret lived on the streets for 3 months, Dorothy continued. It was a personal project. She wanted to understand what people in poverty truly experienced. That morning at the diner, she had no money. She'd made a rule not to break character, not to use her resources. Michael's throat tightened. You were the only person who helped her, Robert said. The only one who saw her as a human being worth dignity and kindness. Dorothy slid a folder across the table. Margaret was deeply moved by your compassion. She had you investigated, not to invade your privacy, but to understand who you really were. She learned about your daughter, your struggles, the kind of man you are. She left instructions in her will, Robert said. Very specific instructions. Michael opened the folder with trembling hands. She's leaving you her house, Dorothy said softly. A 3-bedroom home in Maplewood, fully paid off, and a trust fund for your daughter's education. Enough to cover any college she chooses. Michael couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The words swam before his eyes. There's one condition, Robert added. Every year on the anniversary of the day you met her, you must perform an act of kindness for a stranger in need. Anonymous, expecting nothing in return. Tears streamed down Michael's face. I just gave her breakfast. No, Dorothy said, her own eyes glistening. You gave her something far more valuable. You gave her proof that goodness still exists in this world. You reminded her why her work mattered. Michael thought of all the nights he'd worried, all the times he'd felt like he was drowning, and he thought of that rainy morning, when he'd simply done what felt right. She wanted you to know, Robert said, that kindness is never wasted. It echoes further than we ever imagined. Michael moved into the house a month later. Emma had her own room, painted purple just like she'd always wanted. There was a yard for her to play in, space to breathe, security they'd never known. But the greatest gift wasn't the house or the money. It was a reminder that a simple act of human decency could change everything. Every year since, on that rainy Saturday in April, Michael wakes early. He goes to Jerry's diner and waits. And when someone in need walks through that door, someone hungry or desperate or lost, he offers them a meal and a moment of dignity, because he knows now what his mother always told him. We're all just walking each other home. If this story touched your heart, please share, and subscribe. Leave a comment below about a time when someone's kindness changed your life, or when you were able to help someone in need. Your stories inspire us all to be better human beings. Read Triclawed can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.